All right, everyone, welcome back to What Do You Know with Nick and Devin. I'm Nick.
I'm Devin.
Yeah. What do you call it? Let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
Do you
I love
feel
questions.
like... Love questions.
Love
Remember
questions.
that one day where we said we could be a part of the CIA?
Yeah.
And that we should be?
Yeah.
I think that should continue. I think we need to look into that deeper.
Okay, I
I
didn't
think
fill out
that-
my application.
No, neither did
All
I.
right, well,
Okay. Did we
classic.
say CIA or FBI?
CIA.
CAA?
All right, I have dyslexia. Fuck you. CIA.
I have dyslexia. I just add random letters and take out
No,
others.
I said CAI.
Oh, they said CAA.
Well, you need to.
Whatever, anyway.
Anyway, what was your question?
Clandestine work. Do you think you would make a good spy? Like, if we were to join the CIA, do you think you could be a good spy?
I think I am so. I have a lot of self-confidence, but I think I'm so generic looking that I could fit in anywhere.
That's a good quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So I
okay.
would be a good spy.
Okay.
Because I'm just a 6'1" on a good day, white man with brown hair, brown eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's so common everywhere. Well, most everywhere. That it's just be like, all right, yeah, you can be fine.
Well, and your improv skills.
Yeah.
Top notch.
I can riff it with the best. Of them.
So, would you rather be the spy or the handler?
Oh, like Q
No.
in James Bond? No,
No,
who's
'cause
the handler?
Q's
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 the tech
always
guy.
the techie.
Yeah. Oh, the handler is
the
like the one
handler's-
in the van, like being like, all right, you need to go here.
The handler is the one that, like, you would be passing information to, and they would be meeting you and, like, calling you and telling you your setup and all that. Yeah. Like your point of contact.
I think I'd rather. Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd rather be the spy
Yeah.
because the handler, I feel like there's a lot of prep work, and I'm just not here for that. I just want to go in and
Get in, get out.
Yeah. Wear a black jumper and get in and out.
I just also imagine you having a handler and then be like, damn Pryor, doing his own things again.
He's going rogue.
He's going rogue.
Yeah, I think I would be a spy for a very short time before they'd be like, you're just not following the rules. You're not.
Would you
listening."
get out of spy training?
Oh, like I would successfully do spy training?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could do that.
Yeah. I just feel like it's got to be tough.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is I think everything is great. I could do everything until it comes to the language aspect. I think that would be difficult.
Oh,
but I mean, if you're like fully studying it, that might be one thing. But like having to, there's just like so much work behind that. You have to know all the customs. You have to know all the languages. You have like the accent work, like all of that.
Do you think they specialize? Like, oh, this spy is our like Northern European specialty,
1,000%.
and this one goes down to like the southern tip of South America only.
Yeah. But I think you have to, in any given situation, have to be able to pull something else out of your ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I think studying language for fun, like on Duolingo or Babbel,
Sure.
is a little different than studying a language because your life depends on it. There's a little bit of weight there that
I don't know. That owl
it's might
gonna
kill
come
you.
get you. Yeah, exactly. I fear for my life every time I open that app.
Right,
Okay,
right,
yeah.
right.
Whenever I get that notification of are you gonna lose your streak today?
Right, don't you fucking lose that
I'm
streak.
like, that feels like a knife to the throat.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, you live at this address?
We're just confirming. I was like, I don't think I put an address in when I opened up this app.
Is this you walking your dog instead of training for a language?
Exactly. I also feel like spies today, it's such different work.
Yeah.
Than one, like the Hollywood aspect of that.
Right.
But
right.
also just in general, like I think the spy work is so different.
I wonder if there are any like physical spies still nowadays, or if it's
I'm
all
sure.
just done via technology. Well, because people say stuff not like they don't always say there's top secrets on a blog post.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's still so much happening verbally in the world.
Right.
Like,
You got to have a physical spy, not just a digital one.
Until we get robots. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well,
Down the road.
down the road.
All right. Well, today we are going to be talking about kind of the spy world.
Is it James Bond?
No.
Is it Matt Damon in
You got this.
not The Minority Report?
No, that was Tom Cruise.
That was Tom Cruise.
You're thinking of Born Identity.
Born Identity.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Any other guesses?
Is it what's his name? I think his name's Neil something in Naked Gun.
Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about Naked Gun. You got it.
Austin Powers and the Spy Shagged Me.
Spot on.
What other ones do I got?
No, we're fine.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about the real life OSS, the Office of Strategic Services.
Oh.
Have you heard of this?
No.
So it was only around during World War II.
Okay.
So formed in, I'm just jumping right in.
Oh, please.
But welcome to the world of the OSS.
Happy to be here.
It's kind of fun. We're going to dive into, of course, like the setup and like some of the gadgets and missions they went on. But this really was formulated specifically for World War II.
Okay.
And then was dissolved afterwards.
Oh, okay.
As we'll see. And there's actually a couple of fun members of the OSS, like personnel-wise.
Oh.
Which is cool. So it was formed on June 13th, 1942. It was the U.S. intelligence agency during World War II. At the height of the program, it employed 24,000 people.
What country?
U.S.
Oh. Did you say that?
No, but like,
the
U.S. intelligence agency.
Oh, sorry.
The U.S.
Is it the OSS?
The OSS, Office of Strategic Services.
Where does the U.S. come in?
Okay, so the OSS is the Office of Strategic Services, formed June 13th, 1942, and was the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency during World War II.
Oh, so sorry. So it was the pre-CIA.
Basically, yeah. You got there.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Coffee kicked in now, or the brain needs to like get my levels back down.
Just.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to keep going.
Please.
So, prior to the OSS, State, Treasury, Navy, and War Departments all conducted intelligence activities on an as-need basis with no overall coordination. So people were just like, I need that info, go send someone. You know what I mean? Like nothing was coordinated centrally through the office. And so the U.S. Army and the U.S. Navy had separate code-breaking departments even. Like they like didn't really share information. Everything was like within its own branch. And the FBI at the time was responsible for domestic security and anti-espionage operations. So that was everything, kind of the workings of the U.S. kind of intelligence world before the OSS was created.
Okay.
So FDR was concerned with deficiencies within American intelligence, as we might have seen, and called on William J. Donovan to orchestrate a plan for an intelligence service. This was actually based on MI6 and Special Operations Executive, which it's weird to say, but the SOE is Special Operations Executive is what it's called. It's like an intelligence, a British intelligence agency. It's just like a weird phrasing.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like Special Operations Executive. Yeah. I'm thinking of like executives. Like it's just like a strange...
It's a hard stop right
there.
Yeah,
it's just like, okay. So the SOE was a secret British WW2 organization, World War II organization, that focused on espionage, sabotage, and reconnaissance.
Okay.
Which I realized that I did not know how to spell reconnaissance in this. And it's actually not recognizance, it's reconnaissance. There's no G in it.
Oh.
And I've always said recognizance.
Just like whenever I've always saying like reconnaissance?
Reconnaissance, yeah. Like recon.
Oh, wow.
It's not recognizance, it's
no,
reconnaissance.
It's not recognitive. Like you're not
cognitive
stuff. No.
Isn't that weird?
And you also say sandwich?
I say sandwich, yeah. Sorry.
I think you should get a brain scan.
Says the dyslexic one to my left.
Yeah. At least I know what's wrong with me. I'm self-aware and trying to be better.
I just blame it on where I grew up, so we're fine.
G weirdo.
Get out of here. All right, so Donovan drafts an agency focused on foreign intelligence and special operations, including commandos, disinformation, partisan, and guerrilla activities. Donovan works closely with Charles Howard Dick Ellis. So Dick Ellis was an Australian-born and British intelligence officer, and he was appointed deputy head of the British Security Coordination in New York in 1940.
Okay.
So he's on the British side of things, but he's like kind of up there with some things. Later, he was appointed as His Britannic Majesty's Counsel.
What a title.
They have such weird titles over in England. I'm like, can we just be straight fucking forward?
Right.
Jesus. So, the British Security Coordination, or the BSC, was a covert organization set up by MI6 in New York at the direction of Winston Churchill.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was... I didn't look too much into this specific division, the BSC, but I don't know if it was like secret even to the U.S. government. I doubt it because of the close work, but it was a secret organization that they based in New York. honestly, other agents within the BSC, other than Ellis, were Ian Fleming, Roald Dahl, and Noel Coward.
I'm sorry, what?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Ian Fleming
wrote Bond,
and then Roald Dahl, obviously, The Witches, and BFG.
And Noel Coward's a composer.
Okay. Wow, that's cool.
Isn't that cool?
That's interesting.
So during Ellis's time in New York, and prior to providing the blueprints for the setup of Coordinator of Information and the OSS, Ellis was briefing J. Edgar Hoover in counter-espionage techniques. Yeah. So Ellis wrote a 14-page document for Donovan titled Workings of a Secret Service Organization. Not very covert. I was like, you kind of gave it away in the beginning, huh?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So CIA historian Thomas F. Troy states, quote, Ellis was the tradecraft expert, the organization man, the one who furnished Bill Donovan with charts and memoranda on running an intelligence organization, end quote. So he's like, Ellis was this organization. Yeah. Like Donovan oversaw everything, but like Ellis was basically running it, right? Yeah. So Donovan's eventually... Sorry, I love this because Donovan's appointed Coordinator of Information on July 11th, 1941. With that title, he runs the new organization known as the Office of Coordinator of Information.
Oh. Okay.
They're like, you're now the Coordinator of Information. He's like, great. They're like, you're going to have your whole office. And they're like, cool, what are we going to call it? The Office of the Coordinator of Information. He said, great. Also known as COI.
Just on the nose.
Right. They're like, let's be super literal.
Right.
The downside to this whole thing is that he had no actual powers. Like responsibilities, yes, but no power over anything. Like he couldn't make like large scale decisions.
Yeah.
He could do stuff like within his office, sure, but like he couldn't do anything outside of that.
You can organize your file cabinet all you want.
You can order people around, but you don't have like any sort of large scale power.
Okay.
Even like throughout the entirety of the OSS and this office, like no power.
Oh.
Isn't that weird? But as we get into it, you'll be like, they did a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But no actual power. So anyway, plus existing U.S. agencies were skeptical of the COI, if not fully hostile towards the British. Because at this point, we haven't entered into World War II yet.
Oh,
so like we've done World War I with the British, but like we're still kind of like, we have our own military. Like we're fine. We have our own military.
Right.
Fuck off. Like we're not doing anything. Right. So until a few months after Pearl Harbor, most OSS intelligence came from the UK. Because the US was like, no, you guys are working obviously extremely closely with the British and are like being trained from the British. Like, no, go screw you guys.
Yeah.
So kind of like some inter-office conflict was happening. So under the direction of Ellis, the BSC trained the first OSS agents in Canada, while training stations in the US were being set up under the guidance of the BSC instructors, who also supported how information was arranged and managed as seen in the SOE. So basically the British were infiltrating the OSS and organizing everything. They're like, we're going to train you up in Canada, we're going to help you set up the camps here in the US, and we're going to tell you how to file and organize everything.
Oh.
And they're like, okay, cool. I was like, you guys might as well just set up shop at this point. What the hell?
Thanks for all the blueprints.
Right.
Do you want the keys? Like, I don't know.
At that point, like, I was just like, what are we doing here? Like, we appreciate the support, but also, like, sure, like, give me the blueprints. I'll figure out the rest. But again, because basically the Joint Chiefs of Staff were like, screw you guys. They're like, all we have is the British
to help out.
But FDR is like, no, I want you to keep going.
Right.
So they're like caught between mom and dad. They're like, what do I do? Go to my uncle.
Right.
Yeah. So the British basically ran the show. Ellis was Donovan's right-hand man. However, in all cases, people know that Ellis is running everything. So William Casey, head of the OSS Europe operations and future CIA director, actually writes in his biography, quote, the real active head of the intelligence section in Donovan's OSS group is Ellis. In other words, Stevenson's assistant in the British intelligence is running Donovan's intelligence service. So Stevenson was the head of that secret organization in New York, and then Ellis was right underneath him. He was his assistant.
Okay.
And now the assistant of British intelligence is running the American intelligence service. And we're like, How did... What? What? I mean, and this is of no, like, kind of backlash to Ellis. An amazing person and very, like, obviously skilled and well-versed in everything he was doing. Right. It's just kind of odd that we were like, here are the keys.
Yeah, well, I just feel like the British intelligence was operating for so much longer. They were like, hey, we can at least tell you what to do.
Right.
Here's the mistakes we made so you don't make them as well.
Right. When there's like obviously no like malice under anything or like they weren't trying to like infiltrate the US, but it is just kind of like funny and weird that the British were running our US intelligence.
I feel like it was more like let's get these guys, these Yanks up to speed. Yeah. Let's do it as quickly as possible. Yeah, exactly. And here's Ellis to make it quick as possible.
Like these fucking
so they
idiots.
Can start kicking Nazi ass.
Yeah, exactly. They're like trying to coax us into the war faster. Yeah. So the British also made their shortwave broadcasting capabilities and equipment available to Europe, Africa, and the Far East for agents until American production was established. They're like, we're going to give you literally everything. So we were like, great, thanks. OSS agents began training at Camp X near Whitby, Ontario, and the SOE operated a, quote, assassination and elimination training program.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. We love it. So this included trainers William E. Fairbairn and Eric A. Skies, exceptional masters in the art of knife-wielding combat, and creators of the British close quarters combat martial arts. Which makes it's so weird because you're like, oh, an assassination and elimination training program and like knife wielding combat, and then you go, oh, they're spies,
right?
Like everything is close quarters all of the time. Like they have to know how to fight their way out of something,
right? It's either you're hidden under like somewhere miles away with a long range gun, or you're standing next to the person,
right, with like a knife in your pocket. Right. Like that's all you have. I'm like. It makes sense, but it's just so weird to be like, okay, so we're going to train you in close quarter combat.
Right.
Here we go.
And it's also wild that, like, I don't know, to have an author, like a creator of CQC being known.
Right. Also correct.
And it's like, yeah, this was pretty much invented during World War II. It wasn't anything beforehand. It was like, because I feel like close quarters before that was like, I have a bayonet. I have a sword.
Right. I mean, I feel like the first time you really saw that was, yes, like bayonets and all of that stuff, but like in trenches. It was the first time that had to like be something that we learned how to fight in.
Yeah, because otherwise it's like Gregorian wrestling.
Or you're across fields with cannons. There was no... Yeah, exactly. So one of the trainees, George Hunter White, titled Camp X as, quote, the School of Mayhem and Murder.
That's so metal.
It sounds like a great like animated show. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the U.S. now having built their training sites have designated them into 3 areas. Actually more than 3, but there's kind of 3 focused. Okay. So Area A in Prince William Forest, Virginia, was used for training the operational groups or OGs.
Okay.
Area C, also in Prince William Forest Park, was spanning approximately 6,000 acres and was used for communications training.
Mm-hmm.
Area B, located in Catoctin Mountain Park, Maryland, was used for training the special operations, so the SOs.
Ooh.
These SO trainings were modeled, of course, after Britain's Special Operations Executive, which included parachute, sabotage, self-defense weapons, and leadership training. Which is actually, I didn't think about it, but leadership training was to support like guerrilla or partisan resistance. So like how to gather people, organize people, like really start like generating that sort of groups and resistance fighting. I was like, I guess that makes sense. You would have to train on that. Like how do you start that
how do you start a revolution?
Country? Yeah, exactly. I was like, that's wild. And then Area B is actually now the site of Camp David. Mm-hmm. It's like, aw, cute. Reduce, reuse, recycle. So outside of that, Area E, known as, quote, the farm, consisted of country estates, manor houses, with surrounding horse farms to train the SI branch. SI, or Secret Intelligence, was the more mysterious and referred to as, quote, cloak and dagger, training agents in the world of espionage.
Okay.
Morale operations also happened here in psychological warfare and propaganda was trained in Area E.
Okay.
Which... Yeah, it is kind of the more like mysterious psychological espionage, you know. It's crazy. It's crazy to me, the aspect of propaganda and like how it was used as a tactic of warfare.
I mean, it's still used today. Like
Totally.
I think it happened recently too. Planes flying overhead certain areas of conflict, and they drop pamphlets to be like, "Hey," I think sometimes the pamphlets are like, "Hey, you should like leave this area because it's about to get bombed."
Right.
But it's also like, "Hey, your leader or this group isn't great. Like they're the enemy." Like it's that type of propaganda of being just dropped from planes to the people. And it's like, I guess, to start them thinking about it. I don't know.
It is insane how much propaganda can be used in an effective and like influential way. Like if done obviously extremely well.
Yeah.
But as like a full pathway and tactic of war, like propaganda warfare is its own division.
Right.
Yeah. Insane. So Area F was situated in the Congressional Country Club in Bethesda, Maryland, and that was the primary OSS training facility.
Okay.
So it was like kind of like a golf club, and they're like, we're going to take that over.
Yeah.
We need that.
It's part of the training to like see how well you hit the back nine.
Correct. Like if you can't hit it, you're out.
Right.
So that was kind of all the main U.S. areas, and then other facilities were located in Great Britain, London actually being the first OSS training facility outside of North America. Excuse me. Which makes sense because it was Britain.
Right.
French Algeria, Egypt, India, Ceylon, and China.
Well, China's fascinating that it's there. But also I was going to say that's all interesting because a lot of those points where the training happens is a lot of where a lot of the fighting happened during World War II.
So these provided the international bases, provided incredibly helpful as a base for graduated OSS agents, of course, and American recruits that enlisted in war zones.
Oh.
So if I'm an American out in Europe, you know what I mean, or I'm deployed, whatever it is, and now I need a place to train, I now have outposts across Europe and into into Asia. So the training center in Cairo actually was known as Spy School.
I'm off to spy school. Really? This is a picture. First day of the spy school.
Holding their little chalkboard. And was a lavish palace belonging to a family member of King Farouk. Oh. They were like, well, yeah, we don't mind setting up in a palace. That's fine.
If I have to.
Right. So, all right, now let's shift a little bit and start talking about some of the weapons and gadgets.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, which is cool. So, Donovan begins inviting experts, organizing workshops, and funding labs to eventually form the research and development branch of the OSS.
Okay.
So, Boston chemist Stanley P. Lavelle, who Donovan referred to as Professor Moriarty, was first to head the branch.
Why that guy, though? Like, he's the villain.
But he knows all the little things, you know what I mean? Yeah, all the little plots and schemes. So throughout the war, this branch successfully created and adapted Allied weapons and espionage equipment, including its own novel spy tools and gadgets such as, I have a whole list here.
Hell yeah.
Silenced pistols.
Those are, okay.
Yeah. Lightweight submachine guns.
Okay.
Beano hand grenades that exploded on impact. Kodak actually helped create that.
Oh.
Casually. Explosives disguised
like Kodak, like
camera.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Explosives disguised as lumps of coal, known as black coal Joe, or bags of Chinese flour, also codenamed Aunt Jemima. Correct.
Okay. I'll just let that one go.
Lie? So limpet mines with acetone time delay fuses.
Ooh, okay.
So, and limpet mines, for anyone who's not aware, are naval mines that attach to a target magnetically.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that actually time delay fuses. Perfect.
Be great if like a tank's rolling by.
Yep. And then, safe distance away for that explodes. Compasses hidden in uniform buttons. Playing cards that concealed maps. I like to think that like I didn't look into how that worked, but I like to think that like if you lay out all the cards in order, that it creates a map. Yeah,
it probably is.
Yeah,
because like you can't like just open up a box of cards, a bicycle deck, and then just like it just unfurls as a map
into a map. Right, exactly. It's like that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So a 16 millimeter Kodak camera in the shape of a matchbox.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Kodak helped with that one, too.
I would imagine. It'd be weird if they didn't.
Tasteless poison pills, also known as K and L pills.
Are those to, like, kill yourself if you get caught, or are they for someone to kill someone?
I think it's to kill someone because they're tasteless.
Tasteless, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cigarettes laced with tetrahydrocannabinol acetate to induce uncontrollable chattiness. Basically, just get fucking
Truth serum.
Stoned.
Yeah.
Which is hysterical. Wiretap gadgets, electronic beacons for locating agents. Portable radio system, also known as Joan Eleanor. This helped operatives on the ground establish secure contact with a plane that was preparing to land or drop cargo.
Okay.
And then, of course, fake IDs, passes, ration cards, and counterfeit money.
Right.
So Lavelle was asked to make a presentation to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who were already, of course, hostile. Yeah.
No, counterfeit money is interesting because I wonder how much counterfeit like went into regular circulation.
After that, yeah.
Like during and after the war, it was like, yeah, like I use this to like pay for like I'm gonna just throw an example out there. I used like this fake money to rent a car. And then like that rental car agency in Nazi Germany is like, yeah, like I'm gonna use this now to like pay off my taxes, and it's just like gets circulated into like I wonder how long it took for any fake money to like get caught.
Fair. I wonder if eventually it just sat in the system until we recycled into new currency models. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. That's where my brain went. They're like all of those gadgets, counterfeit money.
God damn it. So Lavelle was asked to make a presentation to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who were already hostile, as we had talked about, and skeptical of the OSS enacting missions beyond military intelligence. So they were like, you can like do recon, that's fine, but like you can't do missions. And then so Lavelle like kind of went in to be like, this is what we're working on. Here are all the gadgets and tools that we can use and all of that. And the Joint Chiefs of Staff were actually thinking about splitting the OSS in between the Army and the Navy. So again, keeping things separate.
That's so annoying.
Correct. So during his presentation, Lavelle drops a heady into a waste bin, which after going off causes everyone in the room to flee, and the meeting was never resumed. A heady,
yeah, I was about to ask,
was a panic-inducing explosive device in the shape of a firecracker, which shortly produced a loud shrieking sound followed by a deafening boom.
Oh, I hate that.
So, like, imagine just being in the middle of this presentation, and then just like this shriek, and then boom. And so everyone ran, of course. Named jokingly after Hedy Lamarr for her ability to distract men. However, in reality, saved the lives of some trapped OSS agents. So that actually came in handy.
That's nice.
Yeah. See, thanks, Hedy Lamarr.
There's so many reasons.
So many reasons. After being passed up by the Navy, actually, a young physician, Christian J. Lambertson, presents and demonstrates his newly developed oxygen rebreather to the OSS.
Oh.
And so the OSS bought the concept and hired Lambertson to lead the program. Eventually, the OSS Operational Swimmer Group is created, as well as the OSS Maritime Unit, because of this project.
Wow.
They basically created a breathing system.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Look at the OSS. So not all projects worked, though, such as the failed attempt to use insects to spread anthrax in Spain.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Lavelle is quoted saying, quote, "It was my policy to consider any method, whatever that might aid the war, however unorthodox or untried." And you know what? Incredibly unorthodox and very untried.
I don't see how it could succeed.
Well, I'm like, aren't the insects going to die before they get anywhere?
Right,
like, I don't, yeah.
But the amount of anthrax it takes to kill a human compared to an insect, I imagine, is quite drastic.
I was like, I don't know how you would, yeah. So anyway, obviously failed for a reason.
Yeah. Unless, like, you have the insects dress up as, like, a delivery person.
Just, like, stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are all kind of the gadgets and cool tools that they created. Now we're going to talk about some of the activities that they got into.
Okay.
Obviously, a lot of these we could like deep dive into what those mean, but I'm kind of going to brush over kind of just some of the activities they went into. Mm-hmm. Okay. So in 1942, they identified pro-Allied potential supporters and located landing sites for Operation Torch in French North Africa. This operation was an invasion of North Africa to secure the area.
Okay.
cool. Stockholm, Sweden, although a neutral country, was the source of many OSS operations that provided in-depth information of German advanced technologies. So they had a base kind of there. In 1944, the Madrid station set up agent networks in France that supported the Allies' invasion of the south of France. So that was cool. Operations in Switzerland run by Alan Welsh Dulles, who is the future first civilian CIA director and longest term director. I was looking at the directors. Some of them were like a couple of months to like a year and a half tops. And I think Dulles was like 5+ years.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like they're only very short term.
I wonder why.
Same. I don't know if it's like an administration thing or if it's like you can't know too much thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Is it so like... Yeah, it might just be like a security thing. I
just imagine like you would want someone with knowledge and longevity to run the program and not have to keep on catching people up to things. Right. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I guess there's only one way for us to find out.
Well, now the CIA is kind of... There's not really a director anymore, so... it's fine. So, the operation in Switzerland run by Dulles provided... Because I think the Texas airport is the Dulles airport. That's Texas, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't fly.
I don't fly. Anyway, so this operation provided extensive information on German strength, air defenses, submarine production, the V-1 and V-2 weapons, chemical and biological warfare. So this station also supported resistance fighters in France, Austria, and Italy, even helping in the surrender of German forces in Italy in 1945.
Oh, wow.
A lot of shit was happening in this Switzerland operation.
Yeah.
Europe saw many OSS activities and missions in spying, acts of sabotage, propaganda war, organizing, coordinating anti-Nazi resistance groups. Asia saw a lot of these things as well, especially providing military training for anti-Japanese guerrilla movements.
Yeah.
So from 1943 to 1945, the OSS played a major role in training Kuomintang troops in China and Burma, recruiting Kachin and other indigenous irregular forces for sabotage and guides for Allied forces in Burma fighting against the Japanese army.
Oh, okay.
So they basically trained a military
yeah.
to fight against the Japanese, but a lot of their fighters were indigenous peoples to these areas.
Right.
And so they could, one, guide them through the jungles, but also because it was kind of resistance fighters there. You know what I mean? So they knew kind of those areas the best. So the OSS did that.
Man, if only we learned our own lesson.
We could have hoped. OSS also helped arm, train, and supply resistance movements in areas occupied by the Axis powers, including Archimedes, Leonidas, Attilio Patti.
Okay.
All one name.
Oh.
One person.
I thought you had some commas in there.
Nope.
All right.
An OSS officer regularly meets with Ho Chi Minh to support the resistance. Which was like, all right. A huge part of the OSS success comes from penetrating Nazi Germany with OSS operatives, more specifically, training German and Austrian individuals for missions inside Germany.
Okay.
So they're like, we're going to need locals to join our fight to then fight on from the inside, right? So these agents included exiled communists and Socialist Party members, labor activists, anti-Nazi prisoners of war, and German and Jewish refugees.
Okay.
So someone we're going to deep dive into really quick, his name is Fritz Kolb.
Okay.
And he ends up being an OSS spy whose handler was Alan Dulles.
Oh.
And so he was employed by the German Foreign Ministry and was very anti-Nazi. Very anti-Nazi.
I'd hope.
Everything I was reading about that, like, very anti-Nazi. Did not like Nazis.
Oh, it just dropped that every time. It's like,
yeah, no, we get it.
Are they saying it like too many times, or like once he though?
It was a little like,
it's like, don't worry, like I hated the Nazis, okay, guys, I hate the Nazis.
Like, this is a little too much, everyone. I was like, he was a spy for the Allies. Like,
right.
We get it.
I get he was German, but like, it doesn't mean he was a Nazi.
Take a breath, right? So I mean, in the late 20s is when he becomes part of the foreign ministry. And so he kind of builds his way up, right? Okay. So in 1941, he became determined to actively help defeat the Nazis. And after realizing the importance of the information to which he had access, he tried to make contact with the U.S. Embassy in Berlin prior to the U.S. joining the war and closing the embassy, but was unsuccessful. So he was like, 1941... fuck the Nazis. Yeah. I'm going to the U.S. Embassy, but we weren't in the war yet. So we probably didn't really give a shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Did he tell them that he hated the Nazis?
I think he tried to slip it in. He was like, guys.
I don't like the Nazis.
Hey, Nazis. So, right, exactly. Unsuccessful. Eventually, he was placed on diplomatic assignment in Norway.
Fritz, right?
Fritz, okay. Yes. And through the use of blank passports, helps some Jewish people escape Nazi Germany. Oh. And would even pass information to the French resistance, especially when it could save someone's life or prevent an arrest. Right? Because he's seeing all this information. So he either has access to blank passports because he works in the foreign ministry, or, sparingly would reach out to the French resistance and be like, oh, I think there was a cardinal that was on track to be arrested and then potentially executed, and he told the French resistance and stuff like that to help people, which is great. So in 1942, the Nazis were getting worse and executing people on site who were suspected of being wrongdoers. But Kolb continues. He informs the French about a spy who was providing intelligence via the German embassy in Stockholm, which led to the spy's arrest. Okay. So he's like, still don't care. Even if they're killing wrongdoers on site, I'm still going for it because I hate the Nazis. So in 1943, a huge opportunity arises when a fellow anti-Nazi colleague in the ministry reassigns Kolb to higher grade work as a diplomatic courier. So I'm sure they whispered and talked, and he's like, I can help you help everyone else. Yeah. So we're going to get you up there with better information, right? So Kolb is assigned to travel to Bern, Switzerland with a diplomatic bag, and while there, he tries to offer the documents to the British, but they refuse him. Which is what are we doing? Which I kind of get in the sense of it could be a double agent situation. So the British are a little skeptical situation. But also why don't you at least test it? You know what I mean? Anyway, he then tries the Americans and they take a chance on him and luck out with the high quality agent. They're like, yeah, no, this is all clears.
Your resume is great. You hate the Nazis.
Yeah, exactly. Question number 1. Where do you stand on Nazis?
On a scale of 1 to 5.
Right. What is your feeling towards? So Kolb was given the codename George Wood, and by the end of the war had passed 1,600 documents to his handler in Switzerland, including information on German expectations of the site of the D-Day landings, which is crazy because then we could be fully circumvent that, right? D-Day being very successful. V1 and V2 programs, one of their jet fighters, Japanese plant in Southeast Asia, exposure of a spy working in the British embassy in Ankara, which was later determined to be German agent Cicero or Alicia Basna.
Okay.
It seemed very prominent. Very big spy.
I'm sure to someone it is.
Someone's like, oh my God. Right. Yeah, exactly. He was regarded by the CIA as the most important spy of the war. And Alan Dulles wrote, quote, George Wood was not only our best source on Germany, but undoubtedly one of the best secret agents any intelligence service has ever had.
Wow.
Yeah. He never received...
he hated the Nazis.
Added bonus, hated the Nazis. He never received payment for his secret work, but is quoted saying, quote, my aim was to help shorten the war for my unfortunate countrymen and to help concentration camp inmates avoid further suffering, end quote.
Could you not slip him $20?
True, anything. Or even afterwards.
Pay for your hotel when you're spying on someone.
Jesus. Best spy in the world all of a sudden. We're we're not giving you shit though. You're getting paid by the ministry.
Right.
Yeah. So unfortunately, which kind of leads into this, post-war, he's unable to really kind of get settled in the U.S. because he can't find suitable work and tries to return to Germany but is refused. Eventually, he finds work in the U.S. as a sawmill manager or something super weird and I know
it's so sad.
So eventually he finds work in the US but is known as a traitor and hated figure in Germany because people are still kind of coming out of
right,
Nazi like mindset, right? And also like it's still kind of a weird thing,
a healing period,
right? We're dividing the whole country, like everything, right? So Der Stern, which is a magazine in Germany, writes, quote, Kolb's story demonstrates that ordinary Germans could do something to fight Hitler's madness, and post-war Germany treated him like a leper because of his actions, end quote. Which I did think like, yeah, like that fucking sucks that he was treated like that after the war, even in the US.
Yeah, in Germany makes sense.
But
I get that. But like he was a hero essentially,
right?
For the war, according to the US. Why not like the US or France or Germany help him out? Or not Germany, I'm sorry, Britain.
Like Alan Dulles couldn't have been like, all right, like
right,
you can't. But
we have a desk work here for you.
I guess the other hard part of that is like everything's super secretive.
Yeah,
like they know him as George Wood. Like they can't say that he was a spy. You know what I mean?
You can't
like
put that on your resume when you're
you can't be
applying to CVS.
Anti-Nazi spy.
Right.
They're like, so what skill set did you learn that could apply to your stock boy? Yeah. So it is kind of, I get it on one hand, but at the same time, you couldn't have dropped like a duffel of money for him, you know, like,
right.
Come
or
on.
like helped forge a new identity for him.
Something like, I don't know. Yeah. So crazy. But I did really like what Der Stern wrote about his story demonstrates that ordinary Germans could do something to fight Hitler's madness. So it's just like kind of the actions of anyone has the ability to fight for the good of people. You know what I mean? Like this guy was just working in the ministry and said, look at the resources I have available to me and what I can do to supply that access to other people. You know what I mean?
Right.
For the greater good. And so I thought that was just, they kind of hit it on its head, you know? More activities and missions transpired throughout the war, including spy networks in Turkey, recruitment and information channels from a former Chicago banker in Istanbul.
Bring it back home.
Right, exactly. I was like, I want a little knot, a little tie. The purchasing of Soviet code and cipher materials and airdropping OSS agents behind enemy lines in the Norwegian mountains to sabotage train lines to prevent the withdrawal of German forces from northern Norway. So like, no, we're going to separate you from your main army. You're just going to stay here. What I thought was really cool is that in Turkey, it was a neutral country.
Yeah.
So a lot of both Axis and Allied kind of espionage units were based in Turkey. So you had a lot of train lines kind of going in and out. Yeah. So I imagine just like a central train station where everyone's a spy. Like everyone has like a gun and everyone's constant tension and secret meetings are happening at cafes, but everyone thinks that everyone else is like a...
and you can't do anything.
Like a civilian, you know what I mean? Like I was like, this is honestly a pretty tense situation, but also seems very cool to have this intermixing happening within these train lines in Turkey.
Right.
Like,
right.
That's
you
awesome.
probably found out a lot of information at that
I'm
spot.
sure.
Yeah.
There's actually so the Chicago banker with another associate actually set up an entire information chain, but that actually got shut down because it started to become unreliable.
Oh.
But it started like really, really cool and in Istanbul and was able to, it was codenamed like Dogwood or something, and able to set up all of this information. And then the British were like, not sure if this is reliable. And the US was like, okay, we might back you up on that. And then it got shut down. So that's some of the activities they did. And now, as we kind of start to wrap up, here are some fun personnel, people that were in the OSS. So while Donovan brought together a massive team of people, like I said, 24,000 people at its height.
Wow.
Some larger names you might recognize are film director John Ford, actor Sterling Hayden, Russian Prince Sergei Obolensky. You know him pretty well.
I'm very familiar with Russian royalty.
MLB catcher Mo Berg. As a secret intelligence agent, he was sent to seek information on German physicist Werner Heisenberg for his knowledge on the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
If we remember that episode. Ding. Football player Jumping Joe Savaldi, who was recruited for his skills in hand-to-hand combat, his language skills, and a deep knowledge of the Italian geography, including Benito Mussolini's compound.
Oh,
he was a special operations agent. Yeah. Which makes sense. I mean, he's like this loved figure in Italy, And so I'm sure Mussolini was like, oh, come to my compound. And he's like, let me just take some notes while I'm here.
What a great Mussolini impression.
Like, hey, come to my compound. Yeah.
Mamma mia.
Spot on. Remember back in, so Devin and I went to college together. Remember back at ISU when everyone called me Young Stalin because I looked like Young Stalin?
Yeah.
I don't think that was true.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to remember if it was Stalin or Castro, but I think it was Stalin. I was just like, which dictator was it?
That you were trying to say you also look like Castro.
No. You did when you were younger.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I don't want to lean into it, though, so...
Fine.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No one's forcing you.
And then lastly, the last one is the beloved Julia Child.
Wow.
Who worked directly under Donovan.
No shit.
Isn't that crazy?
Huh.
So Brian and I have been watching Julia, which is the Julia Child show on Max.
Yeah.
HBO. And so in the last season, they talk about her days in the OSS. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And that's kind of like what brought me to do this.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, she was part of the OSS.
No shit. That's
crazy.
Cool.
So Donovan wanted independent thinkers, intelligent, quick-witted, creative people from all walks of life and backgrounds. No distinction of culture or religion or anything was ever brought into those decisions.
Right.
So Donovan states, quote, I'd rather have a young lieutenant with enough guts to disobey a direct order than a colonel too regimented to think for himself, end quote. I was like, totally.
Fair.
So after the war, in September 1945, the OSS is dissolved into many branches of the military. But in January 1946, President Truman created the Central Intelligence Group, direct precursor to the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency,
Right.
which was formed by the National Security Act of 1947. The CIA Special Activities Division, which is currently in operation, is the direct descendant of the OSS.
Oh, okay.
And that's what we know today.
That's where our spies are right now. Maybe.
Who's to say?
Yeah, we might get fucked up for this episode, but we'll find out.
It just breaks down the door and we're just beat on camera.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's the dogs coming in and it's just special agents.
Amazing. Can we just be a member of the CIA, please? And they're like, no.
Shut it down. Just break your computer in half.
This is our interview.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the OSS, which is pretty cool. I mean, the fact that I think we always knew there were spies and espionage and all of that happening,
100%.
but the fact that one, we were so behind on it going into World War II,
Yeah.
and two, the fact that like this was only set up for the war, and then of course, thank God, Truman was like, we should probably keep that going.
Well, I mean, like America for a while was just so like we finally got our shit situated. Like we don't want to like deal with anybody else.
Right.
And then World War I happened. It was like, fuck, we have to deal with somebody.
Right.
And then it was kind of like, great, we did that. No more.
No more.
And then World War II happens.
We
like,
really dragged our feet on that, right?
Yeah.
And there's actually Ellis was in the room when they got the information about Pearl Harbor.
Oh.
They actually received information about the attacks on Pearl Harbor before it happened.
Yeah.
But I think, obviously, you could go full into that. But obviously, it still happened. But it was delayed. It was given to FDR through his son at the time. But they received the information, gave it to the son, and the son gave it to FDR.
Wow.
And then everything fell from there.
Happened, yeah.
Yeah, but then after that, we got into the war. But I mean, it's great that it's great that the OSS was even set up in general, because right after the war, then we start to shift and start going into the Cold War.
Right.
So if all of this background work wasn't already, and these networks and everything weren't already set up, that would have been so difficult to start into.
Yeah, we'd have been fucked during the Cold War.
Well, and also think about all of the work that the OSS did even during World War II.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like D-Day, all of the like biological chemical warfare information, like all of that, like wouldn't have been possible for us. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's the OSS. So,
that's the OSS.
Hey, CIA, let us join. But thank you for taking time. Everyone, follow us on WDYK_podcast on all social media platforms. Thank you for following and subscribing, and we'll catch you next time.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye.